we have here Benedict Albensi. He's can you tell me what your connection to the mitochondrial community is, Ben?
Yes, I'm a board director for MITO Canada. I've been on the board for about 5 years. And in my research at the University of Manitoba and St. Boniface Hospital, I research mitochondrial dysfunction and Alzheimer's disease.
And how did you become connected to MITO Canada and become a board member?
Well, I had been going to the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation meetings regularly in the U.S., and I met Vicky Spaldoni, who is a former board director for MITO Canada there. And after learning about my background, she encouraged me to talk to the CEO of MITO Canada at the time to join the board. So that was my first meeting with a MITO Canada board member, and we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I can imagine. So with that piece, you mentioned that you have your own personal study is on Alzheimer's. Can you talk a little bit more about that particular, what your research centers on?
Yeah, so I've been working with memory and neurological disorders for many, many years. And the last 7 years or so, I got involved and interested in mitochondrial dysfunction, and so became aware that it was really central to over 30 diseases and conditions where the mitochondria was key. And that really piqued my interest. So not only in the primary mitochondrial disorders, but also involved in mitochondrial dysfunction, acquired mitochondrial dysfunction in aging, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and so on.
And so right now, what excites you about that mitochondrial research and that branch of study?
Yeah, so it's the type of work that we're doing is very, very exciting right now. We're finding some real major differences in the way mitochondrial function, especially in our tests in animals. We find that there are very clear early changes in mitochondrial function in our animal models of Alzheimer's disease. And not only that, but sex-based differences. So we find that not only do the male and female mice get mitochondrial dysfunction earlier than the classic hallmarks of Alzheimer's, like the plaques and tangles that people talk about a lot, but in particular, we find really very early changes in the female mice as early as 2 months. And that was very interesting to us. And so we've been studying that more in depth.
So with that in mind, based on your research, what role does mitochondrial dysfunction play in neurodegenerative disorders?
So it seems to play a very central role, as I said just a few seconds ago. But mitochondria, of course, is part of brain metabolism, and if you don't have your mitochondrial functioning properly, you don't get the energy you need. So, it's very similar to the furnace in your house. We get all the energy and heat from our furnace, and every cell in the body has mitochondria, and if they're not working right, the cells don't get the energy they need. So really our idea is to target therapeutically mitochondria and to really develop mitochondrial medicines that would be effective not only for the primary mitochondrial disorders, but for any mitochondrial disorder. And so another one of the projects we have going on in the lab involves mitochondrial transfusion. And this is with a company that we're partnering with in California. The name of the company is actually Mitochondrial Transfusion. So we're hoping to develop innovative strategies for treating mitochondria.
That sounds exciting. That's a lot of innovative work, which leads me to my next question. You have several initiatives in Winnipeg that you were involved with that help raise the profile of mitochondrial disease. Can you tell us about these and what it is and what it has meant to connect to the patient community locally?
Yeah, so at the University of Manitoba, we have a teddy bear picnic every year. In fact, it would have normally been next weekend. And I get an opportunity. It's sponsored by the Children's Hospital of Manitoba, part of our university. And so I get a chance to interact with a lot of families there in one of the tents where I can talk about mitochondrial disorders. And some of these families, of course, are looking for a diagnosis. They're trying to figure out if their family member has a mitochondrial disorder. So I pass out information brochures and I let them know about the MITO Canada advocacy program. And and the network that we have. So it's really a great resource, and it's great for me to meet the families to educate them more about mitochondrial disorders. And then, of course, we've just started having our own walk and run here in Winnipeg. One of the local families that have a mitochondrial disorder in their family, there's a lady that has a grandson with Lay's disorder, and so she started a walk and run just starting last year that we're going to be helping with every year going forward. So it's another way for us to bring awareness to the community and also fundraise for MITO Canada in general and advocate for those in Manitoba.
So lots. Sounds like you guys are moving forward with a lot of initiatives. That sounds exciting.
And then I do a lot of radio and TV interviews and talk about the importance of mitochondria in general with the public as much as I can.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. And so one of the questions it's gonna be helpful to let you reflect on your involvement. So in your time serving as on the board of MITO Canada, what progress and impact are you most proud of?
Well, I think one of the things I noticed early on is how the families really struggle. And I noticed that not only were they struggling with getting a proper diagnosis, but really just getting help on every step through the healthcare system. And so it really became apparent that these families need help, not only scientifically and with research, but also from a variety of other points of view with the healthcare system. And it really made me want to participate and help in any way I can as being a board director. So I'm really helpful, or I'm really proud that I'm able to supply any help at all to these families with mitochondrial disorders.
Well, we certainly appreciate all those efforts and as I've been talking to other people in different places in Canada, it seems that everybody's doing something, and this MITO Canada network is certainly creating a directed focus to raising that awareness. So Team MITO is out there running right now, running for those who can't, attempting a new Guinness World Record to raise awareness and funds for mitochondrial disease. What words of inspiration do you have to the people watching and the importance of the dollars needed to support mitochondrial research?
Well, I think the first thing I want to say is that we have to talk to the families and those with mitochondrial disorders and let them know that they're not alone in this. Let them know that we're out there helping scientists like myself in my lab, that we're working on new mitochondrial medicines every day. So there's certainly hope, and they're not alone in this fight. And secondly, especially with COVID-19 so much in the media right now, I think it's really important to remember that we need mitochondrial treatments. We need research. We're not going to have a vaccine for COVID without research. And the same is true for mitochondrial disorders and mitochondrial dysfunction. We need funding for research in order to do our experiments. We need to provide evidence. We need to do experiments in animals. And then furthermore, we need to do studies in clinical trials in humans. So we need this sort of evidence so that we can produce new treatments and eventually cures for mitochondrial disorders and other forms of mitochondrial dysfunction. So I can't overemphasize the importance for funding and just supporting MITO Canada. We can't do it without your help.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. We certainly appreciate your perspective on this. And as somebody who has watched this from the sidelines, I'm certainly gaining a greater appreciation for the amount of work and the quality of work that's being done across Canada and across the world. And I certainly appreciate your time sharing your perspective on this today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Yep.
Have a great day.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay.